The final innovation in recent survey research I'm going to use as an example YouGov Polymetrics. Why? Because Polymetrics in the US and YouGov in Britain, which subsequently merged, exploit the opportunity for internet-based survey research on consumer behavior and public affairs. Founded in 2005, the British firm YouGov was active in British politics a little bit earlier, and Polymetrics, the 2005 American company, was founded by Stanford political scientist Doug Rivers. The target population is U.S. adults, and the sampling frame is U.S. adult population, but with a very difficult recruitment that's restricted to those with computer and internet access. The sampling design is non-random recruitment of volunteers for their panel. Remember that term from the 1920s and 30s too, for market research. But it's come back in a new form, a panel of volunteers who are usually recruited via internet ads and sometimes email. So there's nothing random about the selection of volunteers for the panel. And this becomes a very controversial point in survey research discussions and meetings, which we'll talk about. Samples are drawn from a very large panel base. So there might be a couple of million people in the panel. For any particular study, a subsample of those people are drawn who are matched on demographic characteristics for a variety of known census data. This sounds a lot like the old quota sampling, but uses a more sophisticated statistical methodology and theory, which some would argue is more justifiable and leads to better results than the old quota method. This, of course, is also a point of some debate in the profession. As with all current internet polling, there is no probability sample to begin with, and therefore controversy among survey methodologists. Because of the non-random recruitment that goes on and the question of whether the subsequent subsampling and matching is sufficient to sustain reliable statistical inference. But the counter-argument is that while sampling may be something that's well handled in most probability samples, actual non-response means that real surveys and real polls are always based on less than the full sample you drew probabilistically. And therefore, non-response means all actual surveys and polls require some kind of model-based adjustments, so that not only do internet polls require this kind of modeling, but all polls, even probability samples, are at least potentially subject to this kind of difficulty if you don't get a 100% response rate. And as we'll see, real response rates are quite a lot below 100%. By using the internet, YouGov Polymetrics can conduct anywhere from a few hundred to a few thousand interviews in a very short period of time. The mode of interview, of course, is self-administered via the internet. And so that means that there's no need to hire interviewers to conduct the surveys. And notice that the advantage of internet surveys is that they can contain multimedia elements such as embedded advertisements or news clips. Those are things which are much more difficult to do on the telephone and can be accomplished in face-to-face interviews, but the internet provides a cheap and easy way to include those elements which previously have not really been possible outside of the laboratory.